Hey guys, happy Tuesday again. This is the TED Show. I am with my friend Zach Seybold, who is here graciously to share his wisdom and insight with us. So let us know you can hear us and see us. That's always the most important thing. This is Zach's, I don't know if it's first time on Facebook Live, but we're going to give him some love. So what happens is they eventually pop on. It takes a few minutes, and then we get a little love or a thumbs up. Hap, let us know you can hear us or see us. I see Cassie's on there. We definitely want to listen to and hear. Oh, see, we got a thumbs up already. So people are lovey and loving today on this Tuesday, November 6th. Vote, right? Is today the 6th or the 7th?
Today is, well,
I'm not a calendar, but I want you to go out and vote. Please go vote.
it's the 6th.
All right, so November 6th, that's right.
I voted.
I did too. I voted as well. So welcome to the show, man.
Thank you.
We had a nice conversation last night because, as you guys know, I spend the $1.98 I have on R&D on booze. So I can't really give Zach any questions prior to. What's up, Ty? But you know, you're going to do fantastic. I've watched you. You have an amazing career. You got a great story, and you're going to share it. So thanks for being on. All right, so give us a little background on Zach. Tell us a little bit about you.
Background. I'm from Cincinnati originally, born and raised there. I went to University of Arizona, transferred back to Cincinnati, and went to UC. While I was in college, I started working at a factory there.
You worked at what kind of factory did you work at?
We manufactured foundry supplies.
Okay, you're gonna have to tell me what a foundry is.
It's actually much more specific than that. That was the generalization of it. We made a pattern maker supply for foundry work. There are only 3 places in the country that I'm aware of that make it or made it at the time. It was a very old company, and I worked for $6 an hour, cash under the table.
Nice.
No benefits, no nothing. And
You were in college while you were doing this?
By the time I graduated from college, I owned 3/4 of the company, and within a year after that, I owned the entire company.
Wait, but how do you go from? All right, so let's talk. This is why the story is important. How do you go from working $6 an hour to beginning to invest in the company? This is the entrepreneurship part that I put in the intro.
Yeah. So.
How old were you?
Well, I was in college. I was in college for a very long time, in all fairness.
Listen, I understand. I was on the 6.5-year plan myself.
I think I was
5.5, maybe.
I was pretty right around there. We're on the same path. No, it was an old family company, 100-year-old family-run company. And so I went to work there, and over time I eventually took over more and more responsibility, eventually became legitimate and was on the books. And I worked out a deal where I could go, and in the summer or whenever I was on vacation, I could go throughout the Northeast where the foundries and so on are, and go on sales tours, mostly at my expense. And I worked out a deal where I would get a percentage of the profits on the product sold to these new customers.
How do you know at that age to be a deal maker? Did you grow up in a household where entrepreneurship or that kind of thought process was the norm, or were you just born with that gift or that talent?
No, I was actually just got lucky. I was not that smart.
But you knew enough to ask. I think that's what a lot of people don't believe. Like, they know the business or they want to give it a shot and they're afraid to take a chance. You obviously were not. And maybe you weren't that smart. I don't believe that for a minute, but you were in the right place at the right time, and then you had the wherewithal to ask. So he didn't ask. It's called an action verb, people. You know, I don't do those if it has to do with exercise, but when you're talking about business, you definitely want to do the ask. You want to take the leap, which is what you did.
I wanted to make more money. I asked, what are the possibilities, what are the opportunities, and so on. And so that was an opportunity, was expanding the customer base. And then I worked out a separate deal whereby I could forego pay in favor of shares of the company. So then when that started making a whole lot of money with my first deal, then I stopped taking money and I started working 2 other jobs so that I wouldn't have to take a paycheck, and I got shares of the company instead.
Nice. So you traded out. You understood the value, which was great. You had the insight to know if I can get more shares of the company in the long run, the long game, you're going to make out much better.
Short-term sacrifice for a long-term gain.
I think a lot of people are afraid of that short-term sacrifice, and I can't figure out why. Because you go through your whole life and you're working on these things, and if you would just take a little bit of time up front to give up some certain things, then your long-term, you'll be able to reach your goals, which is what you were working toward even at a young age.
Well, older generations, I think, still understand that. You know, the World War II generation, the greatest generation, you know, made the ultimate sacrifice
Amen.
in those cases.
Amen.
And I think that we're now to the point where younger and younger people are given more and more and feel that it's a right instead of a privilege, and don't understand a lot of, I won't say everybody, I don't want to be too
Sure,
general.
no generalization, I get it.
But I think a lot of people don't understand the concept of a short-term sacrifice for a long-term gain. People feel like things are a right, and we only have a handful of rights in life.
I agree.
I
agree. All right, so you bought shares of the company, then you became the owner. What did you do with the company? Did you grow it?
So while I was doing all of that, I grew the company. I implemented just-in-time supply chain, all this. So I've got a degree in English literature, which makes me supremely qualified for growing a business.
English lit, what a fascinating topic.
I'm a couple credits short of a minor in real estate and a couple credits short of a minor in computer science, but I didn't quite make it there. I fell down on the 1 yard line. But so sold it to another company out of New York, and then moved here with my little nest egg and started in the real estate business.
Why real estate? So why did you choose to take your money and go, all right, I want to invest in being a realtor, being in the real estate market?
Well, at the time, my brother was here, and my brother was the director of construction for Deborah Incorporated, which is who developed Metro West. So my brother built all the roads and utilities and the golf course and everything. Anything that's not a building, my brother built.
Wow.
And that was, and he was on the land development path, and convinced me to sell my factory, sell my house, break up with my girlfriend, give her my dog, and move to Winter Park.
Wow.
From Cincinnati to
How
Winter
did he
Park.
convince you to do all of that?
Very persuasive. He was very good.
He should be an attorney.
Well, that was a lot of effort, really, for very little gain. Because I was trying to get him, get me down here. But so came down here, worked in land development with him for a while. When I went out on my own, I didn't have the deep pockets that he had. So I learned the residential side. I'd already done land development, land sales.
Sure.
And then started with commercial, and then eventually in 2002 expanded into residential to sort of even out the cash flow. And so ever since then, and I started my company in 2003.
So you understood, because of the experience at the factory, you understood what cash flow was. And I think a lot of people who get into business don't necessarily understand that part. They have a great idea. Maybe they want to take the leap, which I still encourage you to take the leap. But a lot of them don't have that plan to back them up. They don't have, even if you don't have the funds, you still have to figure out kind of what your plan is going to be, right?
Yes, and I think that one of the biggest mistakes you can make, no matter what your business is, I think the biggest mistake you can make is to start down a road without having a plan. You want to, and that may be a general thing, a general business plan, all the way down to daily. You want to make your plan. So you want to plan your work, then work your plan, and I'd start off with the things that are your top things to get done today, right? That all work towards your short, medium, and long-term goals.
Do you still do that? Do you still have a daily plan? Like, was I on your calendar and your plan? You probably do. You're going to pull out this thing that has like 9, I see. All right, so how is that? How do you feel like that helps you? Because I have somebody that helps me with it, right? Mm-hmm. So I have Michelle, most of you know. And I do want to kind of know what my schedule is, but I'm not really good at knowing my daily plan, but I believe in it. So how do you do that? If somebody's out there going, all right, I want to try a daily plan, Zach says it's something I should do, or at least try, what are some of the steps that they can take in order to implement that into their daily life?
One of the things that I find is incredibly valuable, you want to define what it is that you need to do every day, things you need to do every week, things you need to do once a month, quarterly, twice a year.
And not just to clarify, not just things you need to do, like go to the grocery store.
No.
You're talking about specific things that are going to implement or continue to help you grow in your business. These are specific details. So I'm sorry, talk a little bit about
take
that.
your business plan, you break it down into the different tasks,
Right.
the different things that you must get done,
Right.
and figure out what the frequency is that it has to be done. So I teach at my office. I teach time blocking. So first we start off with the 20% stuff. The 20% of your things make you almost all of your money.
Correct.
Right. So I say calls, following up with your sphere of influence, following up with people that you've met this week, and so on. Calls, handwritten thank you notes, things like that.
So you really do drill it down to very specific tasks.
Yeah. So you identify what the best time of day to make your calls are, that you can reach the most people, and you block out that time for making calls. Why would for example, we do 8:15 until 11 is generally, and then also late afternoon, early evening are great times to get a hold of people when they're driving, because people will take your phone calls when they're driving.
That's correct. I will too.
The same person that won't take your phone call at 10:30 in the morning will take your phone call at 5:30 in the afternoon when they're driving, because drive time is considered useless time. So they'll even answer phone calls from telemarketers
Right.
when they, So anyway, you block it out, make your priorities, and then you have to honor that time commitment as if it's an appointment, right? It doesn't matter if you put it on your schedule if you don't.
Well, correct.
honor
That's the key to time blocking. It just doesn't look pretty and color coded on your calendar. You actually have to implement it and make it a part of your daily life, because there's a specific reason why you're doing it, because you're trying to reach a goal. This is not just, I'm going to block the time out, so again, because my calendar looks pretty. There's a lot more to that.
Yes, and I learned none of this during my illustrious career in college, getting my degree in English literature.
I understand.
It goes
that.
back to you were asking, how I went from point A to point B, but around the time of 9/11. So when I owned the factory, my number one client was the Department of Defense.
Wow.
And so it turns out that they keep track of people that they do a lot of business with. So
So true.
So with land development experience, and then also with fabrication and foundry experience and so on, turns out that that's a fairly a good skill set if you want to build aircraft carriers. So I get a phone call from a management consulting company, and said, meet us at the Orlando Hilton airport, by the airport, at Tuesday at 1 o'clock. If you're a minute late, don't knock.
Right?
That was it. Right? And so I went and I worked on several projects with them, and they still never told me what the end game was. And eventually they sent me to work for at the Washington Navy Yard in D.C. So I co-administered 4 of the 7 aircraft carrier construction programs.
How do you do that as a civilian with no point of reference? Is it because,
Well,
talk
that's
about
exactly what they were looking for. They wanted somebody with business experience, because it turns out
Versus
military people, right? When you just get an appropriation and you've got instant budget, it's very easy to not really pay attention to the pennies,
Right.
and the pennies turn into dollars, and the dollars turn into millions of dollars, and wasted, I should say. And so we went in and we just overhauled that, and eventually we were working with PEO carriers, PEO subs, NAVC.
Did you have to travel the world to do that? Did you?
No, I just flew back and forth to DC. So they would fly me to DC on Sunday afternoon, and they would fly me back on Friday night.
So you were really that was a very big commitment on your part. Were you doing that in between before you got into real estate? Was that in between the factory, or was it at the same time?
No, it was. I was already had been in real estate and been in land development, and it was before I started my company. And I had left my brother's company, and I was sort of feeling out what are my next steps. And then I got that weird phone call, and I thought, okay.
Yeah, now they just watch you with Alexa. They just listen to you when you have your.
They
know they track. I know they track you. everybody's on their radar. I'm just telling you.
What's
if
that
you think
weird
they're
clicking
not,
noise on my phone?
Yeah, I'm just telling you. If you think they're not, if you think you're not, you're wrong. But you still go about life. You don't have to live in conspiracy theory world. All right. So talk about forming your own real estate brokerage. Talk about forming your own company.
So, being a management consultant is probably better than having an MBA, because what you learned in the real world, and that's also where I got a lot of my priorities about time blocking and so on and so forth. But so when I came back and I went to work at a big box place for about 8 months because I wanted the residential side of the training, because I didn't have a lot of experience in it, and I realized that that they didn't know, their training was a little lacking.
Well, you had been through a lot of different training, plus you already had your own personal life training to go along with it.
Well, and also residential real estate is very easy once you've developed land without the use of an attorney. Doing your own legal work and everything.
Right.
A residential contract is pretty easy. And also running huge aircraft carrier construction projects, trying to get through a residential sales cycle.
Well,
on a
your
contract.
perspective was different. So this seemed easier, or for lack of a better word, it wasn't as complicated as what you were dealing with on the other side of things.
Right.
And so you became
people still manage to mess it up, but
from your mouth, I don't know what to say about that. It's true, they do. They mess it up but that's a whole nother show. We should talk about training and actually what goes on. And just because you get your real estate license doesn't mean you know how to practice real estate, for the record.
all they teach you at real estate school is how to pass the test.
Honestly.
It's your broker's responsibility to teach you how to make a living and how to get through a transaction without going to Florida Real Estate Commission jail.
Yeah, we don't want to go to jail.
So
you became your own Now, so what were your goals?
And I already had my
becoming your
broker's
own?
license at that time.
What did you want to do with that? You obviously started it. It's you hear a whole bunch of stuff that owning your business, owning your brokerage, it's either the most fantastic thing or it's the most challenging thing, and sometimes it's both. So what made you want to do that?
And for me, I've experienced both sides of it. When I first started my company owned me.
Right.
Which is
a
a
great
huge
point.
difference. And now I own my company. It's a little bit different. I've figured out how to work my schedule properly so that way I don't work. So I started off working close to 100 hours a week.
Well, sure, because it's your company. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs make that same mistake. So back to the time blocking and back to trying to figure out, are you going to let your business run you, or are you going to run your business? There's a big difference in that. But I think a lot of entrepreneurs get in, they make the leap, and because they don't have the planning or they don't have the background, they don't know what to do.
That's fair to say. And even with my background, I still sort of stumbled around a little bit for the first few years, trying to sort of pin it down. And some people are natural at it. I wasn't a natural. It was totally different from what I had done before.
Of course, it was completely different. So what do you do different? How did you begin to implement the processes that make you different now? Because part of your, it's either on your bio or it's on your Facebook page or maybe all of the above, quality versus quantity.
Right.
Mentorship, I saw that word in there, which is why I threw that into the show. Because obviously that's something that's really important to you. Did you know that up front that's how you wanted to be as a broker, or did you learn it over time?
I think I felt it, but I didn't form it in my mind. I've always, your values are your values, even though you may not articulate it.
Sure.
But I think that over the last few years, part of the problem with growing a real estate brokerage is that you have to deal with independent contractors. Right. Now, when I owned a factory, somebody didn't show up and didn't work, I just let them go.
Correct.
Right?
It's a different world.
It's a different
it's
world.
It's not a W-2 employee.
Exactly. And it's so you've got to be able to motivate people and encourage them, and you've got to sort of cajole them into doing what's best for themselves.
Sure.
Which is, I always find that amazing that people have to be, talked into doing what's best for themselves.
Well, it's because I agree. I'm amazed about that too. They want it, but they don't. I don't know if they don't want it enough, or they just don't know how to articulate it, or if they feel like they're being directed, they immediately rebel. It's very interesting to me, that thought process. And that's what makes being a business owner sometimes a challenge, because you are dealing with all those personalities.
And so I used to really struggle with the whole thing about, because most realtor, you look at most real estate brokerages, only 10 to 15% are productive. And then you've got 85% roughly or more that are, only do a few deals a year. They don't make a living at it. They're
Right.
part-timers, or they're struggling. And so what I decided was that I don't want 100 agents and 15 are productive. If I'm going to have 15 productive agents, I want it to be 15 out of 20. And I want the other 5 to be working really hard to get where the other ones are.
Smart.
So, if somebody won't come in and finish training, because we've got a really intensive training program, that if you just do what's taught, and if you've got decent people skills, decent phone skills, and so on, and you'll do what's taught, and you're enthusiastic and hardworking, you should be able to make a living somewhere between, making a living and killing it, somewhere in that range.
Correct.
Now, I can't take somebody who's a 3 when it comes to sales. If you don't have a sales gene, you can't inject someone with a magic syringe and give them the sales gene.
It's super hard, I think, for people who are not salespeople. I don't even know if it's possible. Can you be trained to be a natural salesperson? I'm not sure.
No.
I mean, I think you really do have to have that. There's some sort of personality trait or skill, or you have to be able to work with people. And I think a lot of people think, oh, well, I can talk to anybody. Talking does not equate sales either, for the record. But there's so much training that has to go into it. So as you're mentoring, as you're deciding quality is the most important, has that become kind of your mantra in the office? So when you're hiring agents, when you're working with agents, when you're running your business, it's got to be about the quality and that they're part of the environment that you've set up?
Yeah. Over the years, I've figured out that I really only need to hire full-time realtors. Either that or part-time realtors who are already established in doing transactions.
Gotcha.
Right. So I don't take part-time, like new people out of real estate school that are part-time, because 9 out of 10 times they never finish the training. They sort of wander off, and I spend so much of my personal time training and working with the agents.
Sure.
that and nobody will ever say, well, I went to work at XYZ Realty or whatever, and I just never really did what was asked of me. They always say, oh, I went to work there. I was there for 8 or 10 months and didn't make any money.
Oh my
and they
God.
blame the broker.
All the time.
Right. So
I just heard it the other day. Somebody was talking about a realtor that they know personally and how the market just didn't work for them. Well, what I wanted to say was, I don't really think that's it. I think the person was not working the market. They weren't working with the right brokerage. They weren't. They didn't have the skills. Maybe they didn't. Maybe they just didn't have the right environment to work in. But you can't just sit on your laurels for 8 months and hope that you sell a house, or you get a buyer, or you run a business.
Right. It's not like a spider's web where you just set it
It's
up and
just
hope
not.
somebody wanders into it and gets caught and there's your dinner.
It's a daily challenge, right? It's every day you have to be in it.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be on your game. This looks easy, but this is not necessarily easy. So it's funny when people listen to the show, they're like, well, you had all this experience, but they missed that very beginning part. That's why the beginning part's so important, for them to know that you didn't necessarily have that. You learned it, you grew it, you've honed your craft, not even in real estate. It started with the factory. And so I think that people miss out on the fact that you weren't just born with the silver spoon and then all of a sudden you had a company that you owned. There was a lot of work that went into it. And still continues to be, right? As a business owner, you still, believe me, it's the best thing you could ever do, my opinion. But as a business owner, it just doesn't automatically come to you. You still have to work at it all the time, pretty much.
Yes. So, I mean, my day starts by 4:45 a.m.
Oh, God.
Not after.
That hurts.
Sometimes earlier.
4:45 a.m.?
Well,
why are you a morning person? I'm fascinated because I'm not.
So
I'm like a 3 to 4, and then I go to sleep. A.m.
You go to bed at 2 a.m.
I'm a
and get up
little
at
bit
6
different
a.m.
if you've ever gotten a text message from me at 2:30 in the morning.
Yeah, well, you might get. I might send you a text message at 2:30 in the morning. Is that's because I got up a little early, not because I went to bed early. Well, no, because I worked in a military environment, and so I made sure that I was on the Washington Navy Yard before the carrier captains.
You had to. I get that.
Well, I didn't have
that's
to.
That's important though, but it established you as an expert, as a pro. You worked toward that, and I get it. You still do it though. You still go
Without an alarm.
Oh
so,
my God.
so I made sure that I was on the yard before the admiral and the captains got there. And on my desk, on the left end of my desk was my to-do pile of work, and on the right end of my desk was my done pile of work. So I made sure that I had stuff on the right end of my desk before anybody got there. And when, the enlisted guys, you remember the old military commercials, like we do more before breakfast than most people do all day. So I'd be there with a whole stack of work done already. And these guys these men who commanded thousands and thousands of men would walk in, I'd shake my.
Oh, you give them a hard time.
Oh, yeah,
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
Mary, you're right. Every day you want it. You have to want it more to succeed the next day. I feel like you can't give up on that spirit, but most people, when I say that out loud, most people go, well, I don't have the wherewithal to do that. It's kind of this thing that you learn. I mean, sometimes you have to just continue to practice it like you did. You went in early, you knew what you had to accomplish, and it becomes habit, then it becomes regular, and now he doesn't even need an alarm clock to wake up at 4:45 in the morning. Which says a lot, I think. So talk a little bit about, before we close out, talk a little bit about the mentorship. Hey, Toby, because I think she's awesome. I think that mentoring, having a mentor, being a mentor is super important, and you had it somewhere in your bio about that. So talk a little bit about it.
Well, I think it's important to walk the walk, lead by example. The joke at the office is that I don't come in until 10 a.m. They consider me the late shift. But by 10 a.m., I've already got 4 solid hours of work in, including sitting with my noise canceling headphones with the microphone and everything on the
treadmill.
Yeah, on the bike, on the recumbent bike at the gym, responding to emails and text messages and stuff, dictating all of my responses while I'm getting a little cardio in. It's important that you show people how it's done, not just tell them how it's done and give them a hard time when they don't do it.
Sure.
I think that when you lead by example, people don't want to disappoint you.
I agree.
And that's how you know when somebody's given up, is when they stop showing up at the office, because they know that they know that they haven't been doing what they were supposed to do, so they're like ashamed to show their face, and they sort of stop. They come to the office less and less, or they start coming when they think you're not there. And that's always. But I think breaks my heart when I see somebody with so much potential.
And that's the thing. So you can't people ask me, have you mentored people before? I have. But you have to be, the person you're mentoring has to be in the space to be mentored, or you're just dragging them along, and that doesn't do anybody any good. Whenever I mentor a lot of people too. So if I mentor you, if you're not in that headspace, if you're not willing to listen, if you're not willing to learn, then I can't make you be that way, and I've stopped mentoring people like that.
Yeah.
I see your potential, but if you don't, then you're not committed to the process, and it's going to be a very, very difficult journey for both of us if I'm trying to help you, either in my offices, in my business, in your offices. It's really difficult if you're not on board. Be on board and commit. All right, so see how fast it goes. Go. Say what you want.
But I know you know Andy Brown from Climate.
Andy Brown.
So Andy has me come and talk to his classes from time to time, because I don't just go and pitch my office. I go and I'll answer their questions until finally the staff says, "Hey, you're cutting into their class time." But I always tell them, first of all, you need to physically show up every day. You need to show up physically, mentally, and you need to come in with the right attitude and a desire. And then also, you have to implement. I can train and turn people into real estate geniuses if they'll show up and they'll do the work, and they'll show up for training and so on. But if they don't implement anything, they will be broke real estate geniuses, right?
Correct.
And that's not helpful.
That's a great point.
Right? My wife is made it clear that it's not okay for me to be a broke real estate genius. I'm sure that everyone's, got somebody.
Wait, you're not a philanthropist? You just don't donate your time and your money?
Well, if you're going to be a philanthropist, first you've got to have time and money.
The money.
Yeah, that's right. But
So, all right, so we're going to share all of Zach's contact information, how you can reach out to him, ask him questions. I mean, he's very accessible. You want to reach out to him. I didn't know this story, but see how it goes? I didn't know about the factory until you started talking about it. Because sometimes people come on the show and they want to, have an idea of what we're going to talk about. Trust me, I'm not lying. I have no idea what we're going to talk about every single day, which would not go against you. It would go against your plan. You like a plan. I like it. So now I understand your thought process when we talked last night. Anyway, so you can tell he's open. He 100% wants to help you. So reach out to him. So we're going to share all of that at the end of the show. Any parting words of wisdom, anything you want to share with them before we head out?
Well, before we go into that, I will. If there's somebody out there who's thinking about a career in real estate, or if you're struggling, or if you just have questions and you're not getting them answered from your current sources of information, I'm always available. We're going to give out my personal cell phone number, so you can reach me there any day of the week. Just do it during reasonable business hours. If you call it Saturday at 9 o'clock at night on date night, right, I will answer your questions, but I can't tell you what kind of condition.
Cassie will not be happy with you.
Yeah, I'll still answer my I'll still answer my phone though. She understands that's just part of life. She's got her real estate license.
She knows.
She worked as a realtor back in the early days. So parting words of wisdom. I would say, well, we've got a mixed bag of people watching this, so maybe there's a couple. One, if you're a consumer and you're looking for a realtor, you need to think of a realtor the way you think of your attorney, right? I will take somebody who gets the job done and knocks it out of the park, who's maybe doesn't give me the warmest, fuzziest feeling inside, but they're really great at what they do, over somebody who's like a lot of fun and so on, but stinks at what they do.
Right.
So most people don't feel that way, but I'm very pragmatic about things. I'm just like, look, I hire people for a job. We just want to get it, across the goal line as best possible. And so look for somebody who's got great experience and track record. For realtors out there, I would say look for really good quality knowledge and training, and then also every vendor out there that's selling a website or a CRM or whatever knows, every realtor feels that it can't possibly be this hard. There's a magic bullet, there's some sort of secret, and nobody shared it with me. The secret is that you need to get some good quality tools and work hard.
It's true.
That's it. Training, good quality tools, work hard, and don't let somebody say, oh, if you buy my system or you buy my CRM or whatever it is, it's going to make a huge difference, because really what makes the difference is you, right? All the tools in the world don't matter if you don't use them. So don't buy garbage from vendors that are sending you like mass emails and calling you and saying, so just
Amen to that.
Find out from people around you that do well what they use and how they use it, and just get that stuff. Most of it you can get very inexpensively or reasonably priced, until you get into the super advanced automated marketing stuff, which we have, but not everybody uses the same stuff. So yeah, just don't buy stuff, and don't sign contracts. If their product is good, they know that people will stick with it.
Like usually when they give me their quote, he's trying to give you some real business advice, which I love. All right, so thank you for being on the show, bud. That was awesome. You guys are awesome. Thanks for participating. So we'll share all of Zach's contact information. Can you tell I have allergies today? I just flew in from Boston yesterday, and I cannot breathe here. I don't know what's going on.
You went from like those northern oak allergies.
Yeah,
to
like
southern oak
it's been
allergies.
crazy. I can see on the screen my eyes are swollen. I don't know what's happening. I'm gonna have to take some more Benadryl, which should be fun with the alleged alcohol I have in my cup. But you were great. I really appreciate you sharing your wisdom. It's super important for people to see that an entrepreneur, a realtor entrepreneur, still has a background that brought them to where they are now. And so don't be afraid to take the leap. Just make sure you have some sort of plan before you do. All right, so cheers to everybody. I saw a lot of comments. Zach and I will comment on those later. Thank you guys. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow. Mwah.